I was barely 30 years old, a successful corporate attorney with two kids under two, a big new house that needed a ton of work, an overly energetic yellow lab, and a spouse who was gone 2 weeks out of every month. Oh, I also had three grandparents who were actively dying. And do you know what I was focused on? I was completely fixated on my fingernails. You see, everybody around me had these well groomed nails, and I didn't. Nor was there any way that I could, considering all of my responsibilities. So my fingernails became my tipping point. It's my hunch that somewhere along the line, you have reached a tipping point and have burned out too. Whether you were trapped in a toxic work environment or crushed by a romantic relationship, it's my guess that, like me, you may have sought greener pastures elsewhere and walked away. But it's also my guess that even though things might have felt better momentarily, that they didn't last. Because the truth is, life is like a good manicure. No matter how hard you try, it never stays perfect for long. Now, you're probably familiar with the concept of burnout, but what you might not know is that it's usually not just burnout. Oftentimes, it's betrayal. And unless you address that betrayal, you are always going to feel burned out. Now, let me explain what I mean by betrayal. A betrayal is the breaking of an expectation that you have relied on, that ruptures your view of yourself or the way the world works. It can be as simple as somebody betraying a confidence, or as complex as the realization that you betrayed yourself by selling out to a dream that was not your own. Now, had I known that what I was feeling was not burnout, but was a deep-seated sense of betrayal from unmet expectations around career, life, and motherhood, I may not have walked away. I may not have continued to betray myself by shoving down my own needs and desires and seeking to please, conform, and perform for others instead. And neither do you. Women and girls, especially, are taught to seek validation from others instead of themselves. At home, we carry the emotional labor of the family. At work, despite progress, we are still paid and promoted less than men. And in society, we never seem to be quite young or thin or pretty enough. Living like this is a betrayal of self that impacts our health, our happiness, and our ability to live up to our full potential. It's such a problem that the World Health Organization estimates that burnout costs the United States more than $500 billion every year. The solution begins by naming the correct problem. Standard protocol for burnout recovery includes better self-care, scheduling, and support. But if the remedies for burnout don't work, then what you're experiencing is not burnout. It's betrayal, and you need betrayal recovery instead. So, what is burnout? The World Health Organization lists three main symptoms for burnout. Those three main symptoms are feelings of energy depletion or exhaustion, an increased mental distancing from one's job, or feeling negative about your job or your career, and reduced professional productivity, which interestingly are many of the same symptoms as burnout. It's just that burnout and betrayal have different root causes. To determine if your symptoms come from burnout or betrayal, ask yourself, do traditional remedies for burnout work for me? If the answer is yes, self-care goes a long way. Making changes in my daily routine and getting assistance, managing my workload makes a noticeable and lasting difference in my attitude and my level of satisfaction. Then you probably are burned out. Keep exploring and implementing traditional remedies for burnout, such as meditation, taking breaks throughout the day, and asking for help when you need it. But if your answer is no, I feel trapped in a burnout self-care cycle where I do something and I feel better for a while, but it never really lasts for long. And worse, if you feel like you're becoming progressively more cynical or resentful than you used to be, then what you're experiencing is probably betrayal. Betrayal recovery is a process encapsulated by the acronym FLAUNT, which stands for F, find your fetish. That's a fun one. L, laugh out loud. A, accept unconditionally. N, navigate the negative. And T, trust in your truth. Now, while all of these steps are vitally important to moving through burnout, the process is not necessarily linear. So for today, we're only going to focus on that first step, F, find your fetish. Finding your fetish, while similar to Simon Sinek's Find Your Why, is different because instead of finding that external why, it's about finding what brings you internal gratification. The shift from the external to the internal is what unhooks you from the need to please, conform, and perform to other people's expectations. It unhooks you from constantly seeking validation. And it allows you to feel better no matter what's going on around you because you're in charge of validating yourself. Plus, fetish is just a really fun word because of the way that it raises eyebrows. But it's also a great word because it's got two alternate definitions that are both equally applicable to betrayal recovery. According to the Merriam-Webster Online Dictionary, one definition of fetish is an object believed to have magical powers that protects or aids its owner. The other definition is something necessary for gratification. To better explain fetish and betrayal recovery and how those two things, work together, we're going to talk about the Disney character Dumbo, the elephant. Not because I personally have an elephant fetish, but because the story illustrates both definitions of the word fetish so well. In case it's been a while, or in case you've never seen the movie, Dumbo has these really big ears that everybody makes fun of. And when his mother tries to protect him from all of the bullying, the animal trainer thinks that she's being aggressive and he locks her up. The only way that Dumbo can redeem himself and save his mother is to learn how to fly. So in a sense, learning to fly was Dumbo's fetish. He needed to fly for his personal gratification to help heal him from feeling betrayed by all of his friends and family members who made fun of him. Which leads to the question, what do you need for your personal gratification? Both at home and at work. That thing that you need in order to feel satisfied is your fetish. Finding your fetish heals feelings of betrayal that crop up when life lets you down and when things don't turn out the way you thought they would. When you find your fetish, you know what you need in order to feel gratified. So it makes it easier to go after that thing. When we don't know what brings us that sense of internal gratification, we become hyper-focused on meeting external expectations, on pleasing, conforming, and performing for others' validation. And then we end up mucking around in what I call the betrayal gap. The betrayal gap is the space between what we want and what we need in order to feel satisfied or gratified and what we actually get, which can sometimes feel pretty significant, especially in light of things like COVID and all of the things that are going on in the world. Not many of us grew up with the expectation that we would live through a world pandemic. But the truth of the matter, no matter how big your betrayal gap is or is not, nobody can close it for you because nobody else knows how you feel inside and whether or not you've got that sense of internal gratification in any particular moment. Seeking external validation leaves you exhausted, resentful, and what's commonly mislabeled as burned out. But what is really betrayal? Because no matter how much you do or how good things look on the outside, you never seem to feel better on the inside, and that's where it matters. I have a friend and a colleague whose betrayal gap looked something like this. Tell me if you can relate. She was raised to believe that women could do and have it all. She was passionate about making the world a better place. So she became an attorney and she ended up in a large law firm. Now, she knew that she would face challenges. She knew that it was a predominantly, male-dominated profession. She knew it was highly competitive. She knew all of that. But she also had this expectation that she could do what she wanted, that she was smart, that she was capable, and that if she lived up to expectations, if she billed the right number of hours and generated the right amount of new business, that eventually she would succeed. And the thing is, to a certain extent, she did. But while things looked really good on the outside, she was progressing, she looked satisfied, she looked happy, she never felt that happy on the inside. She had this idea that becoming a successful attorney and having the car and the clients in the house and all that good stuff would make her feel good, but it just didn't. So after several years of pushing for partner and then not making it, she burned out and she left. She felt betrayed by her firm. She felt betrayed by the profession, by the patriarchy, by society, by all of that. And she was really resentful that despite doing everything right, she never received enough validation to close that betrayal gap and to feel good, both at work and at home. But the problem is, it wasn't her employer's job to close her gap. It was her job to figure out what brought her internal gratification and to strive for that, which she finally did when she got clear on what was going on. And she got clear on the fact that she had this fetish for generating large amounts of money for causes that she cared about. Her new job was as an executive director for a children's charity. And she felt really gratified by that work because she could use all of her legal skills to, write grants and to get money generated. And then the money went to a cause that she cared about. So her internal gratification was met. And because she was not only meeting, but exceeding her own standards, she really no longer had the need to seek that external gratification. So what is your betrayal gap like? Have your expectations in life or career been met? Or are you really struggling to feel gratified inside? And then most importantly, who are you asking or demanding to close that gap for you? If you're anything like me, you might be thinking, wait a second, my life, my career, they've just sort of evolved. They pay my bills and I enjoy it or I don't enjoy it. I'm not really sure what my fetish is. If that's the case, you're not alone. We're going to do an activity from the Step Into Your Moxie curriculum that will get you back in touch with one of your primary fetishes. It's called I'm a Monument To. Throughout history, monuments have been erected to honor people or ideas that were important. So in this activity, I want you to think of something that you would be proud to be a monument to. So said another way, in this activity, a monument is something that you stand for. something that you believe in, something that is important to you. In other words, your fetish. Using the following structure, I want you to say, I am a monument to, and then insert whatever it is that you want to be a monument to, because. I want you to think back to when you were first choosing your major or deciding on your career. What was it about this profession that motivated you internally? It can be as lighthearted as the desire to wear designer suits or to feel, amazing driving around in a new car. It can be as serious as wanting to create a safer world because of your own challenging situations. You get to choose. The only thing I really ask is that you try to be honest. For me, I might say something like, I am a monument to creating justice in the world, because too many people face bias, prejudice, and other injustices. And I'm really tired of both seeing injustices and experiencing it. So now it's your turn. You can write it down, which I recommend, or you can just think, I am a monument to, because. Going back to when you were selecting your major or selecting your career, I'm a monument to new ideas. I'm a monument to moving technology forward. What came up for you as you thought about being a monument? Are you struggling to come up with an answer? Or was it easy to say, yeah, I'm really excited by new developments. I'm really excited by new thoughts. How did it feel to connect back to that? And how does declaring yourself a monument help you reconnect to or find your fetish? Whether you're reconnecting to something that you used to be passionate about, or you're discovering something for the first time, knowing your fetish and what brings you gratification is what unhooks you from constantly seeking out other people's approval. It helps you set healthy boundaries, and it increases your sense of well-being because you're striving for something that is internal, the internal gratification, instead of for external markers that oftentimes feel hollow. And that really helps you close the betrayal gap. So now let's move on to the other definition of fetish, which is an object believed to have magical powers that aids or protects its owner. Going back to Dumbo, the elephant, you might remember that he had a feather. It was a magical feather that he thought would help him fly. But in reality, it was just an ordinary feather. But he didn't know that. He thought the feather had magical powers. And what was really going on with that feather, that fetish, was that feather allowed him to access the magic that was already inside of him that he couldn't quite reach. Having a fetish reminds you of the magic that is inside of you, the power that is inside of you. It helps you to keep going when life gets really hard, when you either feel betrayed or you legitimately have been betrayed. And so right now, today, we are going to create a fetish. We're going to create your version of Dumbo's feather. But unlike Dumbo's feather, your feather is not something external that you can leave at home. Your fetish is you, your fingers, your breath, and a word that you repeat silently to yourself whenever you want to feel better. So right now, touch your thumb and your index finger together. And with a little bit of pressure, I want you to rub. As you're doing this, take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. And as you breathe, I want you to silently repeat to yourself in your head the word fetish. So once again, touch, breathe, and fetish. This is a physical fetish, this touching, this breath, this intellectual stimulation that will remind you to stop and to notice how you're feeling inside. You'll notice if you're like, yes, I feel totally gratified and happy, or I feel used, abused, taken advantage of. I feel like I'm constantly striving. It'll just allow you to stop and notice. When you stop and you notice, you can also remind yourself of what you are a monument to. I am a monument for new ideas, because new ideas change the world. I am a monument to creating justice, because justice is important to me. Whatever you are a monument to, it reminds you to stop, feel, and reconnect to what is important to you. And it also will really remind you that that sense of internal gratification is more important than any amount of external validation. And it will remind you of what you need to do to close that betrayal gap in that moment. So whenever you start feeling burned out, betrayed, use this fetish. This is your fetish and it will help. Plus, it's probably going to totally make you smile anyway and have a good day, because how can you not smile if you're like going fetish and thinking about fetish in the middle of an important meeting or a difficult conversation? So how much better might you feel? How much less burned out could you be if you found your fetish in both senses of the word? If you reconnected to what brought you gratification, and if you used a physical fetish to help heal that betrayal, to help close that betrayal gap. Because in reality, it's not burnout, it's betrayal. And instead of burning it all down and walking away or being stuck in that burnout self-care cycle, you can use your fetish and the 5 steps of flaunt to recover and to heal from betrayal. And yes, I know we only did the first step of flaunt. F, find your fetish. If you're interested, reach out. I will send you information on the other 4 steps. If you go to burnout or betrayal.com, you can download your betrayal recovery guide and start taking some of these next steps towards healing your betrayal on your own. Because what I want for you is for you to stop seeking to please and conform and perform for others, and to start validating yourself instead, no matter what your fingernails look like. If that resonates, I really encourage you to spend some time over the next week thinking about the concepts of betrayal and whether or not you feel betrayed. Because the rest of your life is waiting and the choice is yours. You can spend your time, your money, and your energy endlessly managing your symptoms, or you can move beyond burnout, get to its root cause, and heal your betrayal once and for all. What could be possible for you at work and at home if you did. Thank you. I am Lora Cheadle. And again, for your free download, go to burnout.betrayal.com and you can download the top 3 ways we betray ourselves every day and how to stop. Thank you.